a throwback to Hilchos Torah. So right before here, I saw one of my friends posted on Facebook just a question: who's your favorite fictional extraterrestrial? So then someone said fictional, and he said angels. And so I was thinking, would you describe angels as extraterrestrial? Right. That's one answer, is that they are not of Earth, right? They're outside of Earth, so they're extraterrestrial.
I'd say no, because I think extraterrestrial means a spatial location outside of Earth.
Exactly. So I came up with a new term. If extraterrestrial means above Earth, like in space, and angels are above that, above space, then you should call them extracelestials. So that's my new term for
I think
angels.
you're going to say extra-physicals.
Oh, no. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good too. Okay, so we are on in Hilchos Deios perek hamishi halacha gimel. Overall framework is just like the Chacham is nicker in his Deios and his Chachma, you should also be nicker in his actions. And we said that that basically means in his particular actions, almost in like a protocol type way. And we theorize, how does that fit into Hilchos Deios, into the mitzvah? Anyone else want to say? Because the only mitzvah we have is the halacha b'drachav.
I don't remember.
Right. Right. So the way place we got that from when we were doing it was from the end of Hilchos Tumas Ochlim, where he talks about how the practices of the Hasidim Harishonim and the Prushim would lead you to be Doma L'Shchina, and then that's when we realized that halacha b'drachav emulate the Shechina, and then that's when I realized that the first 4 prakim are for everyone, and then the 6th perek is cling to God, and then Chazal say that means cling to Chachamim. So cling, like Chachamim, are the greatest representations of the Shechina. And so all of this, therefore, is in the framework of, I'm sure there's individual perfection also, but the main framework is like, so it's on in two ways. One is, in terms of the Chacham's individual perfection, then embodying these nihugim is going to be more perfected than the average person is capable of doing. But simultaneously, setting up for the next perek, it's demonstrative. It's demonstrating ideas and standards that lead other people to be Makayim v'halacha b'drachav more because they have a better model. Yeah. Okay, so now we're on Gimel. So we did food, now there's drink. Chacham shosa yain, when a Chacham drinks wine, eno shosa ela kedei lishros achila shebemeav. That, again, I think is not medically true, right? I mean, they did it to soak the food in their innards, right? I don't think we hold that like alcoholic, like wine, helps digestion, but that was definitely. Oh, good question. I think he answers that. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's
Oh, right. Yeah. That's definitely the case. So I'm assuming that this is digestive, and like the only thing I do know now that when you said that, I remembered that. Is it? I think. Okay. I'm gonna say this in the recording so someone can check it, but I think alcohol does have an effect on your metabolism. I forgot if it slows it. I think it slows it, yeah. And therefore, that's the closest thing in modern medicine I've kind of heard of that might be like this. But we'll see what he says about when this is. Anyone who makes himself drunk, so he is a sinner and disgraceful, and he ruins his chachma. Which is interesting because the only other place I know of where the Rambam talks about shikrus, in Hilchos obviously, but in Yom Tov, where he says that it's not avodas Hashem. It's just interesting. He gives 2 different definitions. There he doesn't call them achote and muguna, and he doesn't say about losing your chachma. He says that it's it's not simcha and simchas mitzvah, it's simchas kreso, and it's just holulus and sichlus. It's just interesting, 2 different ways to say it.
Yeah. I feel like for a more in-depth treatment of this, one should consult the Israeli classic of
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
yeah,
I think he doesn't put it, yeah,
If
right.
you had a fascinating
Mhm. This is one of the that's one of the other questions that we can't answer, which is when does the Rambam support his ideas with psukim? Because that would seem to be,
yeah,
a good thing, but and he's done it, but we just don't know, like,
yeah,
I don't know what the pattern is.
yeah. So just the paradigm he's setting up of the drinking
Yeah,
is that you only drink the amount that is medically necessary.
right. That's a good point. Yeah,
And if you're drinking more but you're not getting drunk, then you're not doing the proper diet, but you're not
right.
doing
Three levels. Yeah. And then
If you're getting drunk,
yeah,
then
yeah, that's a good division.
I often think not an
Non-conscious of what?
simple.
Of right. I mean, there it's also you shouldn't get drunk, but that's for a different reason.
But you should. It's not just for like
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess one difference between Yom Tov, meaning on Yom Tov you would drink more than just for the medicinal reason,
Yeah.
but you still wouldn't get drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
You said if you get drunk, then it's Hilchos.
Holus and Sichlos, and not Simchas Mitzvah, but Simchas Preso. Or no, I think that not Simchas Mitzvah is when you exclude the poor, but it's Holus and Sichlos and not Avodas Hashem. Yeah. And not Simcha, he says. Okay, so if this drunkenness, which he's not supposed to do, happens in front of Amei Haaretz, which he's also not supposed to be in front of, ideally, right? I mean, it could happen. It could happen that it was Simcha from
Yeah.
Right. Right. But he should only drink wine when he's eating. So, yeah.
Well, you shouldn't be getting drunk anyway. So.
Right. Shame. So then he has desecrated the name, which is also interesting because I'm sure we're going to see lots of things that the Chacham shouldn't do, but not all of them are automatically equal to Chil Hashem. Even though that we did note in not Kiddush HaKodesh, Kiddush Hashem, that's a sliding scale, But I guess he's saying definitively this is a Chil Hashem.
Yeah. Well, I think. Okay, I'm gonna speculate here.
Yeah.
So getting drunk is like a person removing themselves from their intellect.
Right.
And Chacham is supposed to be like a paragon of a person whose life is about their seichel.
Right.
And so if he's trying to like withdraw from that,
yeah,
then that's the Chil Hashem.
Right. Yeah. That would be for that's a generous explanation in the sense that that's a philosophically correct one. I think it's just that it's a disgrace when people who are regarded in a lofty manner are acting drunk, even if a person's not realizing that it's like getting rid of their chachma, Like it just the disgrace itself causes the Chil Hashem.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm calling this specifically out for. There's one thing he's calling this out for being Chil Hashem.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, some of these other things, I guess they aren't like actually like degrading.
Mm-hmm, right.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to see because the eating stuff. I don't think we had anything that is in that extreme of a category.
Yeah.
I mentioned this. I know I think I mentioned this when I told my conversion story, but just a handy example of this was the first Orthodox shul I ever davened in was the worst place ever, which was on Purim at a Chabad house. And I was so turned off to the entire idea of Orthodox davening because that was my first exposure, and like, I'm not saying that, I mean, obviously it's not a thing unique to Chabad, but like it was more of a bad timing on our part for the first exposure, but this was that was a Chil Hashem, like for in terms of its effect on me. After Lishos B'Tzaharim, it is prohibited to drink in the afternoon, which, by the way, I also wanted to mention before we go on, we've seen him use the word usher, I think, so far in this perek, or not yet, or is this the first time? No, maybe this is the first time. Yeah, fine. So we've asked this question before, but like when he says it's usher, what does that mean? Like this does not seem, I mean, you could say it is, but it does not seem like a technical isser simply because of the fact that we said that like the definition of talmid chacham is not clear here, and it seems to be like relative to your circumstances. Like, you know, and like, what's that? Also, lishos v'tzarayim v'afilu ma'at ela im haya bichlal achila. So does that mean like, I don't know, does that mean that like, you know, if you're making like a late kiddush for someone and you've already eaten, like, you know, and you can't make kiddush on Shabbos after, you know, noon, if wine's the only thing, like, it does not come across as like a technical isser, you know? So the question is, why is he use the lashon isser given the fact that he doesn't use that elsewhere, you know? Plain shot, I would just say that it's just emphasizing how much of a rule this should be, you know, or how severe it is, you know, but like other things you should relate to as guidelines, other things you should relate to as isurim, you know, not that it's technically usser, you know, it's not like, I don't think Beis Din can give you like, you know, makas martyrs for this, you know. I mean, they can do whatever they want, but you know what I'm saying, like not as like a standard thing. And also, again, I don't think that, I mean, maybe this is me projecting onto the Rambam. The halacha bidrachav, I don't think generates technical particular isurim for particular people. Like, I don't think the mitzvah is structured that way. You know, I don't get that sense. So anyway, other to drink in the afternoon, unless it is even a little bit, unless it's included in eating. Drinking that is included in eating does not get people drunk. I never understood, because I feel like you know, if you drink enough alcohol, then of course it's going to get you drunk. You know, I mean, but obviously, like from a common sense standpoint, on drinking on an empty stomach will get you drunk much more readily. But drinking with eating, then you've got like some buffer zone. You know. And we are only careful regarding wine after the meal. So that's the line that I saw that I thought addresses your question, fine, but about when should he drink? And I don't know what he means.
That means you only drink enough to soak, I guess.
Okay. Meaning,
He's eating and drinking.
Wait, but that would mean that you. Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, I thought it meant when you're eating, you drink from the middle.
Right, but then after you're done with your meal, that's when it gets. That's when you have to be careful. That's what?
I thought it was even hard meant on the alternate.
Yeah, I think so. Right, meaning while you're in your meal, you drink only enough to soak your food, and then once you bench, then you should not drink. Like you should be careful not to drink. Yeah.
Well, in terms of hydration, more than having wine for hydration.
Yeah, that's the other thing is I don't know what the practices were.
Not in the afternoon.
Well,
I mean, it's hot. I mean, you need. Even back then, they knew about like basic hydration, you know. So I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the paradigm that I'm thinking is that I'm going to talk about the way that I'm seeing it is they're eating and drinking wine with the food, not in like a particularly restrained amount, and that's like they're imbibing fluids.
Yeah.
And then after the meal in the afternoon, they don't drink any wine.
Right.
After the meal, at night they'll have a little wine just to soak the food.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if they drink water, then I think it's you don't need to say that. But if they don't, then I don't think it's possible to live on that simple hydration.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta drink several water bottles a day.
Yeah. Okay. Next section is, I think we're good with that, right? I think that's pretty straightforward. So the next section is in terms of bia, and I think the two frameworks which should be cognizant of are practice of kedusha, you know, beyond like with Nimishur Sadin, like Kadoshim Tiyu, and then also the ideas of snius, however you define that. You know, so those are at least two frameworks we should be aware of. Okay, I don't know, maybe others. Even though, well, not really tamid, there's such a thing as nida, but right? I mean, that's some weird word to throw in there. Even though a man's wife is mutter to him always, roilo l'talmid chachamim sheyanhig asmo b'kedusha. Okay, so he explicitly says kedusha here. It is proper for talmid chachamim to conduct himself with kedusha. Which, what's our working definition of kedusha? Just make sure we're at least working with the same working definition.
Holy.
From.
Physicality.
Yeah, right. Is it like, I think like
transcending
physicality? Yep. Right. Is yeah. V'lo yehe matsui etel ishto ketarnagol. He shouldn't frequent his wife like a rooster. Yeah, rooster ketarnagol. Right? Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was the description of the wife or the hen, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like the expression that's always used.
Yep, it is. Yeah, and I guess that was known well enough to to know that. I'm not familiar with the roosters. Ella milele Shabbos, lele Shabbos. He should only have via from Friday night to Friday night. Like every Friday night. Im yesh bo koach, if he has the capacity. Ukeshehu, or energy, however you want to define it. Ukeshehu misaper ima, and when he converses with her. Okay, but I think we'll see this is euphemism in some way. Lo yisaper lo betchilas halayla kishehu savea bitno malea. Oh yeah, fine. The footnote guy just says misaper is boel. That's a weird euphemism, right?
Why it says misaper?
What was
it?
Yeah, so I think he's going to talk about that later, is because he converses with his wife a little bit before the talmidei. I think he has a whole perek on that, or a whole paragraph on that. So when he converses with her, lo yisap. You know what? It's actually funny. The word that we have in English that is parallel to this is intercourse, right? People use the term intercourse to refer to like social intercourse, so like it's similar to that. I mean, it's not for the same reason that the footnote gives. Lo yisaper lo b'tchilas halayla. You shouldn't speak with her in the beginning of the night. Kishu savea ubin nobalea, when he is satiated and his belly is full. Lo b'tov halayla, not at the end of the night. Kishu rai, when he's hungry.
Intermittent fasting.
Right. So when he says at the end of the night, does that mean he wakes up and then finds himself hungry before the dawn? Or does it mean like, I assume that's what Sof Halayla is, right? Not like at the end of, it's not like you have a portion of the night where the sun sets and then you have nighttime and then you go to sleep. No, because he wouldn't be hungry by then. Okay, fine. Elab Emsa Halayla, it should be in the middle of the night. Kishi is Akal Hamazon Shuvmeya, once the food in his belly is digested. Right, so this is like what I said before, that they would wake up in the middle of the night, right, as a normal thing. Below Yako Rosho Biosari, he shouldn't be frivolous, or is that the word we use? Yeah, frivolous, lightheadedness. Veloy nabel piv b'divrei havai. So I think this is also euphemism. Well, the second part is because divrei havai is literally like words of exaggeration, but it means he shouldn't like speak in a dirty, exaggerated way, like a raunchy way, Vafilu beina lebena, even between him and her. So this is a good example of where you are engaging in tashmish, but you are not going overboard in the animalistic, psychological, fantasy-based, fantasy-fueled element of that. And speech would be a way to do that, and this is not for other people, obviously, because it's bein lebeina. Harihu Omer. Okay, that's why he's setting up for this next line. Harihu Omer b'Kabbalah, it says in the Nevi'im, Umagil adam masecho, and he tells a man what is his conversation. Amar Chachamim say, Afilu sicha kala shebein ish leishto, ati litin aleha azadin. Even the light conversation between a man and his wife, in the future he will get the held to the law for this, right? That's a good. What's shot?
He decided to quote a pasuk for some reason.
What was it?
Is it he decided to quote a pasuk?
No. What's shot in that Chazal? That you'll get punished for sicha kala shebein ish leishto. Or all the counts, I guess. I mean, simplistic level, I think people will say that it means that like it registers halachically, whatever that is, But I think the meaning of it is, and this is a universal principle in living as a human, that there are certain areas where people are cognizant that their actions have consequences on their perfection, and then there's certain areas they feel are like sealed off from the world of reality, that the actions have consequences, and like part of that is why doing an avera in secret is so bad, because you feel it doesn't have consequences. But then something like this, where it doesn't have overt external consequences, in fact, the consequences you could argue are good because it's making their relations more enjoyable, but in terms of the way you're rewiring the way you relate to the act through this little talk, it means it has consequences, Side point, total side point, it just happens to be coming to mind here. I listened to a podcast, and there's some female Lutheran minister who had a really good line. She was talking about her belief in reward, in punishment, and she breaks from the Christian church. So she had this line: "We are not punished for our sins; we are punished by our sins." And I thought that that's a very, very, very good description of the Torah's view of avon. That the actions themselves have an impact on you, and it's not like God is coming and punishing you, like giving you a slap on the wrist. It's like the Malden that we've talked about before in iyun, that like if you tell the doctor who prescribes medicine for you, if you say, "Oh, if I don't take the medicine, then what's my punishment going to be?" It's not a punishment from external. If you don't get cured or you get sicker, like that's the model of punishment, and that's, I guess, what I'm saying here. But I just want to say that line. The two of them should not be drunk, but you should never get drunk. Well, I guess she doesn't have to worry about that, but he does. Below atzlanim, and they should not be lazy, which I don't know what atzlus means here, right? I mean, it's not like, I just don't know what it means. Like, especially as they should not be, like you mean like half-heart? I don't really know what it is.
Like, trying to, if there's like something where you can apply like the definition of inability to withstand short-term pain.
Right. Below atzbanim. Now, I don't know if atzban here means like depressed or if it means distressed. Because it can mean like pain or distress, depending on the context. Below echad mehen. Neither one of them can be like this. Below tiye yeshena. She should not be asleep. Below ye'enos osa. Vihi ena rota. He should not coerce her when he doesn't want. Ella birtzon shneim ubesim chasam. It should be with mutual consent and with joy. Yisaper ma'at. Oh, this is the part I remember. Yisaper ma'at. You should speak with her a little bit. V'yitzchak ima ma'at, and joke with her a little bit. I remember basically it doesn't mean to tell her a knock joke. It means, so this is, I think the word skok is used this way. It means like almost like flirting. Obviously different kind of flirting than what we're used to in like society, but like kadesha tisyashev not okay. Girta issue. Kadesha tisyashev nafsho, or is it nafsha? Where's the footnote go?
Nafshan.
Nafshan. Interesting. So is it for him or is it for them? To settle his soul or their soul. V'yivol babusha v'lo ba'azus. You should have via with shame and not with brazenness. Now, without going into a whole thing here, this is a clear example where we need to understand what the Torah's idea of busha is, because I don't think this is Christian busha, and whatever the busha is, it's the opposite of azus, which is Chazal say that a lot, right? Like by Shanim and like Azuspanim. That's I knew it wasn't just Azuspanim. Yeah, V'yiprosh miyad, and they should separate immediately. Yeah. Okay. So
I had thought that this was halacha for everyone, not just something by Talmud.
it could be that other people posting that way, but this is one thing we're going to see, by the way, in this perek. A lot of stuff that became mainstream halacha, either through minhag or through people actually posting that way, the Rambam holds is just for Chachamim, yeah. Yeah, but you shouldn't hold yourself to the standards of Chacham.
Yeah. Well, some things I think it doesn't even make sense for like an Amar to do.
Right.
It's like not eating with Amihar.
Right. Yeah. Then you're just gonna be standoffish.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say one more thing about this. Oh, this is this is in many ways. See, this is gonna sound like I'm doing apologetics of some sort or like whatever, but I'm gonna say it anyway. This is very ahead of its time, because you can imagine for most of human history, then the way that husbands related to their wives when it came to matters of via was not caring about both of them being in a state of ratzon and simcha, and like even caring about the emotional state. I don't know history, but I'm fairly confident, just given like human psychology and the way these things probably work, it probably was not something that was like aspired to. So yes. Okay. I'm saying the olam. I'm saying that.
You're not saying that. I'm saying like.
I'm not saying what?
You're not,
No, I'm saying like in the world at large. I think like, and today also, I'm sure if you go to these like very repressive societies, I don't think these guys are like making sure that. What was that?
You know, repressive societies exist now.
Yeah, I mean, in the Middle East and
Yes.
in like certain Christian pockets, not all Christians obviously, but yeah, definitely in like Iraq and Iran and those places, yeah. Kol hanohig minhag zeh. North Korea, curiously enough, also is one. There's no talk of one of the zechuyos you could argue of North Korea is it's very tsanua, but I think in an oddly Christian way, because it's weird since the fact that they were not like they're DACA not Christian, but like all the women dress modestly and there's no talk whatsoever of anything sexual until marriage. Like there's no talk about it even. Like certainly like like courtship is not like a thing. Yeah. Kol hanoeg minhag zeh. Anyone who conducts himself in this way, lo dai shekidesh atzmo. Not only does he sanctify himself, the tihar atzmo, and purify himself. Which, if we wanted to go into a sugya at some point, this came up yesterday also. What's the difference between kedusha and tahara? In general, but like in effects on yourself, like this. Like in the halacha system, there's differences. V'tikin Deios and he fixes Deios. But if he does have kids, hovin banim naim ubaishanim, they will be beautiful and shamefaced kids. There's no good word in English that captures that without negative connotations, I don't think. Fit for wisdom and piety. Anyone who conducts himself in the behavior of the rest of the people who walk in darkness, they'll have kids like those people, which is probably true, right? Meaning it's just going to perpetuate itself.
That's nice.
Say again?
That's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. Yeah. Okay, we good for that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Are you thinking about something, Isaac?
It's like in process.
Sure. I mean, we can go to Pshat, which is, how does it work that you're going to have banim who are not even baishanim?
Because they're going to learn from your character traits.
Yeah, meaning that this will manifest itself in the way that the husband and wife relate to each other, and in the way they relate to sexuality in general, the way that the place that activity and those relationships have in the home, and the kids will embody that like consciously or unconsciously. It'll become the model,
I find that like all the things, like all of it.
In all which things?
When you can't call another minute there, I find that like everything until that is like
Oh, I think the BIA stuff, because it's talking about producing kids. So, I mean, it might have an effect also.
Well, I think like in general, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, but I don't know. Minhag zeh. I don't know. I think same shot is yeah. Talking about this. Okay. Next, snooze gedola nohagim talmidei chachamim ba'atzman. Okay, so now this is talking about personal snooze. Okay, and let's try to get an elementary definition of how he's using snooze here, because he's not going to be talking about skirt length, which is like the first thing people think of when they think of snooze here. Snooze gedola nohagim talmidei chachamim ba'atzman. So talmidei chachamim conduct themselves with snooze. Snooze literally translating to modesty. Lo yisbazu, they do not degrade themselves. Lo yigalu roshan v'lo gufan, they don't expose their heads or their bodies. Even when they go into the bathroom, they are tsanua, they're modest. They don't uncover their garments until they sit. They don't wipe with their right hand, and they distance themselves from all people. Meaning when they go to the bathroom, and they go into the inner room within the inner room in the cave, which I guess is where they have their bathrooms. And they turn aside there, meaning they go to the bathroom there. And if they go to the bathroom behind the fence, they distance themselves. Then they distance themselves so their friend doesn't hear them when they when they break wind, right? That's the phrase. I mean, it's literally when they sneeze, but it's a sneeze of beneath is what the footnote says. Yeah. V'im nifne bebika, if they go to the bathroom in a valley, yarchi kadei shelo yireh haver pirua. They distance themselves so that their friend doesn't see them exposed, meaning I guess like from above, right? It's a valley. Lo yidaber kashu nifne. He doesn't speak when he is going to the bathroom. A few l'torach gadol, even for a great need. There's an axe murderer in here. Yeah, I mean, I assume if it's a source that's gadol enough, then I think you can speak. Ukaderech shenoheg tznius b'beis hakisei bayom, and just as they conduct themselves with tznius in the day, kach noheg v'layla, they also conduct themselves like that at night. Olam yilamid adam atzmo lihipanos shachris v'arvis bilvad. A person should always train himself to go to the bathroom in the morning and evening alone, meaning those are the only times to go to the bathroom, so that he doesn't distance himself. Now, did we have this halacha before?
Right.
Shalom yisrachik, meaning, okay, that's not talking about yisrachik like avoid people when you're going to the bathroom. He means, I think, like being exceedingly distant from people, because you have to, like, say, you have to like travel to like go to the bathroom. You know, I feel like we had to talk about this because we got into a talk about going to the bathroom on schedules. You know,
Yeah.
So I think this was a thing in perek daled. You know.
Yeah, but you have to check yourself 10 times a day.
Yes, right. That was definitely perek daled. Yeah. So what is the usage of tznius here? Because it is not about the sexual, right? Because that was really, I mean, it's funny he doesn't mention tznius at all in those previous halachos, right? He just says kedusha and tahara, and then this is not tznius in terms of hatzneah lechas im elokecha, walk humbly with your God. And he throws in some weird stuff here, right? Like, you know, much of this has to do with the bathroom, you know, but there's also like covering your head, you know?
Well, it seems to be like not making a point about his physicality.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure
Well,
why, but I'm just saying, I think that's like seems to be the phenomenon.
Yeah, I would go one step further instead of saying not making a point. Seems like it's actively striving to like minimize or you know, cover up his physicality, like his base physicality, you know. So like basically those are two things. Basically it's nakedness and like the excretory system and everything that comes along with it, you know, like those are like very base things. And like I know that this society is not into body shaming, but this is like body busha. Like this is like not like you're ashamed of your body, but that the body should not be a focus, and you're like taking measures to conceal it and to like not let other people see it and not like, you know, like make a big deal about it. And like there's a certain shamelessness in like if you're just like I don't know, like going to the bathroom like near people or making bathroom noises near people and just like not caring about it. That does show a certain like disregard for the fact that this is the lower element of me that I should not be like okay with just like, you know, airing out, so to speak. Yeah. Okay, next. Diburo. Chachamim. Oh, okay. So this is now. Did we read this when we did the silence thing to compare it?
No.
Okay, so this is we have to compare this. Chachamim. Lo yehi tzoek v'tzoveach b'shas diburo kabehemos v'chachayos. Chachamim should not cry out and yell at the time of his speech like animals and wild animals, like beasts and cattle and beasts. You shouldn't raise his voice more than in an excessive way. Ella diburo benachas kol brios. His speech should be pleasant with all people. Oh, sorry. Before I forget, the thing you were saying, Isaac, about like how the Bia stuff was basic halacha. So if you look in the Shulchan Aruch in the first couple of simanim, all the bathroom stuff they bring down is basic halacha for all people. And that, to me, again, is a big difference between the Rambam and the And I don't know where it started, like in the poskim, like it could be the Torah, it could be the Mechaber, but like, are we holding all people to these standards, or are we holding talmidei Chachamim to the standards? And then, if at all, maybe just like encouraging the regular people to like be like this. Because remember that, again, going back to the conversion thing, which is not on my mind because I brought it up before. That was what that rabbi said to me when I was told to read the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, because he said that you should use the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch as a doorstop. And I said, why? And he said that it's like you have it's like a phone book where it has all people in it, but you can't tell from looking at the name whether they're a prominent, important doctor or like a lowly bum, And he was saying how again, he was criticizing the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch for his own reasons, but I think the point still stands, that he was saying how if you're putting in all of these halachos and together, and like not being heard while farting is the same as saying Kriya Shema, and there's no way to tell like what the difference is, like in terms of like where this is in the system, then that's going to mess people up, And that's one of the things I like about the Mishnah Torah, which is that the Rambam is very, very clear about where this falls out in the hierarchy of Torah, and like not to say that that I'm not saying that this halacha is not important, but like the very fact that he codifies it in the Nihgo talmidei Chachamim in a specific context within overall Deios, and like doesn't put it in the area where he's saying we should do for all people, is telling. Like, even though there's values here that might be valuable to everyone, it definitely, you walk away from this with a greater view of the hierarchy of these nihugim within the overall halacha thing. And having gone through a year ago all the bathroom halachos in the Aruch HaShulchan, I can tell you don't get that impression, And it might just be a machlok of Rishonim. Like maybe there are people who do hold this is for everyone, and it's hard in the Gemara because like the Gemara might not differentiate, So like it might actually be a matter of like how these poskim conceive of it in the halacha system, Okay, back to speech. We read the last thing of when he speaks pleasantly, Yizahir shelo yitrachik. He should be careful not to. I would say here, like alienate. I mean, literally to distance himself until he seems like those who speak like the haughty. Meaning, what's the word I'm looking for? He shouldn't.
There's like aloof in a way.
Aloof, yeah, that's what I was looking for.
In a way that's like pretentious.
Right. Yeah, like right. Like for example, let's imagine what someone would do if they went to the extreme with this. Like if someone only spoke in whispers in a meek, humble way, and it was like very clear that they're being unnatural, that's gonna like alienate people and make them feel like, oh, this guy's like, what does he think this guy, like this guy's like, pious,
or like, when the when like Amar invites him over for a meal, he's like, I don't eat with Amar.
Right, right, yeah.
I mean, that's like, I don't know if that's exactly the same thing, but like, there's, you can say things in a way that makes it sound like you think you're better than other people.
Yeah.
Or not,
Yeah. On that note, we're gonna take another detour. So I this is partially connected to the hold on just a second here. Where did I put it? This is partially connected to what I just said about like the Rambam classifying this with talmidei Chachamim, but more directly connected to what the Rambam is saying here about the effect on people. And I think I did an episode on the Stoic Jew about this, about how Seneca says that philosophers should conduct themselves, and I think this is very applicable here. So he says, he's writing to a student, and he says, let me give you one piece of advice. Refrain from following the example of those whose craving is for attention, not for their own improvement, by doing certain things which are calculated to give rise to comment on your appearance or way of living generally. So he's criticizing philosophers here who would do this. Avoid shabby attire, long hair, an unkempt beard, an outspoken dislike of silverware, sleeping on the ground, and other misguided means to self-advertisement. So now he's not saying unkempt beard because of like you don't care about hygiene. He's saying like you philosophically don't care about hygiene, and like look at me, I'm not one who cares about, like I'm fine dressing in rags. He says and this is the line that got me from the Rambam. The very name of philosophy, however modest the manner in which it is pursued, is unpopular as it is. Imagine what the reaction would be if we started dissociating ourselves from the conventions of society. Inwardly, everything should be different, but our outward face should conform with the crowd. Our clothes should not be gaudy, yet they should not be dowdy either. We should not keep silver plate with inlays of solid gold, but at the same time, we should not imagine that doing without gold and silver is proof that we are leading the simple life. Let our aim be a way of life not diametrically opposed to, but better than that of the mob. And here's another great line. Otherwise, we shall repel and alienate the very people whose reform we desire. We shall make them, moreover, reluctant to imitate us in anything for fear they may have to imitate us in everything. That's the problem of if the talmidei Chachamim are conducting themselves in this way, in a manner where they are kind of implying like, I am better than you, and like look, you guys aren't doing this. It creates a culture in which there's no longer a distinction between like mastering the Am Haaretz level before you go to the talmidei Chachamim level, and then like you get these inferiority complexes, and then they get alienated because they feel it has to be all or nothing, and then both of those are bad. Yeah, that's all I wanted to read there. Yeah, okay. So this applies in speech also. Umakim lishlom kol adam. You should preemptively greet every person. Kadei shetehe ruchan nocha emene. So their spirit should be pleasant from you. V'danet kol ha'adam l'kaf zchus. You should judge every person favorably. Mithaper b'sheva chavero v'ein mitzaper b'gnuso klal. Interesting. The second half is interesting. He should speak praise of his friend. Okay, fine, that makes sense. But not speak of his degradation at all. So what's the problem with that statement?
Unless you need to, let's say like specific reasons.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask from a different angle. I think that's a good answer, but I was going to say it's usher to speak of the gnus of every person. That's what the definition of lashon hara is, So like, why would he specify for Chachamim they shouldn't speak of that at all? No. So being done, according to the Rambam at least, I don't know the other shitos, but according to the Rambam, you're only chayav to be done a tzaddik l'kaf zchus. Someone has a reputation of a tzaddik.
I'm thinking that.
Should, right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, right. But here it's like an isser to be masafer b'gnus chavero, that's like isn't right. Right. So I think the answer is what you're saying, which is just because you have a matir to be masafer b'gnus of someone, and that would be l'toelas, doesn't mean that you should. Like there are other ways to do it without necessarily being masafer b'gnuso, And I think that is a level of perfection within lashon hara where you have a good matir, and it would be not usher if you did it, but are you taking the extra step of figuring out, is there a way I can accomplish this toelis without it, Ohev shalom v'rodev shalom. You should love peace and pursue peace.
He threw in like 5 different opposed things.
Yes, very, very obviously halacha. I'm saying mishnah. Yeah. Yeah, it is weird, by the way, how he puts dibur. I mean, most of these things have to do with dibur, but in different ways. Like, maktim shalom l'chol adam is like how you engage in. No, I guess it's all in how you engage with people in dibur. But one thing you do see, so maybe this is it. Dan eskol on l'kav zchus here. He seems to be. What do you see from the way he's interpreting it here? I think from the context. Maybe. Yeah, so I think what must you say? That I think he holds that being done kapslut here has to do with dibur. Meaning like giving people the benefit of the doubt verbally, whether to them or for other people, I think it's because literally everything else has to do with dibur, So I think that's what he means. Not that you shouldn't also be done with kapslut in your mind, but that's not how he's codifying that mishnah.
Like talking out meaning like talking about your assessment of them in a supposed way.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, man, I stumbled on this yesterday. I'm just trying to think of if we use this as a test case here. So, okay, I'll use this as a test case. Okay. So I was having my car repaired, and there was this elderly woman who interpreted the cashier's voice as the cashier as being very rude, and I've been to this place for years, well, since 2015 when I got my car, and that's just the way that woman talks. Like she's just got this very New York accent, but whatever. So this old woman was in the waiting room, same waiting room as me, and for at least 20 minutes she just complained, you know, and it got so bad. And I was thinking about the Mishlei pasuk so much that I just left the room, you know, and then I told it to someone as a Mishlei thing about like I had a really good example of this Mishlei thing where like, you know, where like she was I was being beat up by this old woman, you know, by her complaints, you know. So that would be an example of not being done the kavos for every done kol adam the kavos. So Rambam way of being done the kavos verbally would be, if I spoke about that example, using that as an example of how elderly people can be very like, you know, have different sensibility or like different sensitivities or feel, you know, whatever, like very uncertain when it comes to their money. Like one of the things that she was expressing was like she felt like she was, you know, like tricked into like paying for something more than she had to, and how like using this as an example of how like you know, you should take this into account when talking with people, because you see how upset this woman was, clearly upset, and how upset and distressed someone can become if you just don't take into account their psychological state when you talk to them, you know. Now that's a much more positive way and a much more Don Kopskus way to like to talk about it. And both of them were Lotoelis. Like I was illustrating Michelin, and it's not like we're going to run into this person, you know, because her car's not working, so she's not going anywhere. Yeah. Okay. Im ro. Yeah.
The separate thing.
Sure.
I was going to compare this to what we said before in about speech.
Yeah.
So that was about the dea and the quantity.
Okay. Yeah. I forgot to return to that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. This is about like the type of speech that you are engaging.
Right. We didn't have anything before about content, right?
Yeah. We were like, you assess whether it's good speech or not.
Right.
And then you do whatever you assess.
Right. You know what's funny though, now that I'm looking at this? Okay, no, sorry, no, I shouldn't say that. We talked about content in a loose way, just not specific types of content. Because he did say, he introduced the whole thing saying you should only speak in matters of chachma and sorech, right? You know, so that was content, but not specific content like greet every person, you know, and be misaper b'shvacho, and oev shalom, brodev shalom. Like these are more specific in the vein of the entire perek, you know, of like specific ways you should use your speech. Yeah. Okay. Im ro makom shedvar mo'ilim nishma'im. Oh, he goes on. If one sees a place where his words are beneficial and will be heard, omer, he should say. Im lav shosek, and if not, he should be quiet. Yeah.
So is this the middle idea that everyone should be trying to do, or is this what?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, isn't that what we said for the?
Yeah. Yeah. Is it what we said? Well, what we said the middle idea was not being overly attached to feeling like you have to talk, and not being overly restrained, or was that an outdated model? I can't keep track of the Havminas anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think our conclusion was that the middle idea is you assess what. It is not. It's not having extreme inclination.
Yeah.
Rather, you are able to just assess whether it makes sense to figure out.
So here's the difference. That was framed in terms of your inclination to speak. This is framed entirely in terms of how it will be received. Now, I don't know why only this is in the talmidei chachamim thing, but I think that's a definitive difference. Right? Nothing in what he said before had anything to do with like if the person will listen to you or will be benefited by it.
Isn't that about practically? Isn't it the same thing though? Because you should only if you're in the middle there, then you will only talk if you assess that it makes sense.
Okay, but so maybe this gets to something else that I don't know if you or your mom originally told me about this thing, or if I read it somewhere else. There are societies in which the burden is on the speaker to make himself clear, and then there are societies where the burden is on the listener to get information from the speaker. And the way that this came up was there was this finding that some Asian airline, I want to say it was a South Korean airline, but I'm not sure. There were tons of a certain type of plane crash on landing or something like that, and they couldn't figure out, like, these people were flying like the same planes as like people in America or whatever, and they couldn't tell what it was. And then somehow, I forgot how they did the study, blah, blah, blah. But then they found out that there were certain types of things that the pilots were saying to try to get the attention of, like, the, you don't call it mission control for planes, do you? Yeah. Okay, right. Air traffic control.
I only know that flying things.
Okay, so like the pilots were trying to alert the air traffic control of certain things going wrong, and let's say in America, then, like, there was no cultural taboo on being very explicit and like saying, hey guys, like, listen up, something is going wrong. Whereas in this Asian society, it was kind of like you say your thing and like you hope that they pick up on it and then ask more about it. So in critical moments, then these things led to deaths, and so, like, the reason I bring this up now is there are two models of talking. Like, at the end of the day, you're right, is that in the Hilchos Deios for everybody, you are assessing whether this thing is necessary to be said or not. But there's a difference between, like, a speaker-based paradigm of should I say this or should I not say this, and then you're checking whether it's going to be beneficial in terms of that, versus like a more listener-based, like, if I put myself in this person's shoes, how will they hear what I'm saying? And that's like a subtly different way of communicating that maybe the cases will end up the same in many regards, but like I think it's like that's what I'm getting from the words here.
Yeah, meaning, let's say a person who's in the first model might make an assessment and say, like, this would be a beneficial thing for the person to hear it.
Right.
And then he might, let's say, not think about whether the person is going to listen to it.
Right. Sure. Yeah, let's go on. I'm just trying to see imro and makom. See, there's another thing also. Do we read anything into imro and makom? Shadvarav mo'lim v'nishmayim. That sounds like you're seizing opportunities to talk. I don't know if that makes any difference in terms of what we just said, but I don't know. The ro and makom is weird, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you should just say im tavarav mo'lim v'nishmayim omer. Imlav in Omer. What's imro and makom?
Well, he's a chacham.
Yeah.
Right, and so he has a lot of ideas he can share with people.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. So, yeah.
If he is seeing a good opportunity to share chachma,
yeah,
like it's like if he's like, oh, the way the conversation is going, I can share chachma and they'll listen and they'll accept it.
Right.
Then he pounced on the opportunity, even if it wasn't.
I see.
Conversationally.
Right, that's good. And I think there's another emotional havmina also. Since he's a chacham and all of his words are in chachma, so then the question, is this something that is good to say? Check. It's always gonna be check, in the 4 categories or 5 categories of perek avos, his words will likely check that all the time, but that doesn't address the question of whether it will benefit this particular audience. Yeah. Okay, Ketzad. Ready to be served up some more avos. Lo yirata es chaver b'shas kasa. You should not appease his friend at the time of his anger. V'lo yishal lo al nidro b'shas shenadar. You shouldn't ask about his friend's neder at the time that he makes the neder. Ad shetiskara da'ato v'yanuach, until his mind cools off and comes to rest. V'lo yanachem menu b'shas shemesa muta lefanav. He shouldn't comfort him at the time when his dead is before him. Mipnei shehu bahul ad sheyikaver, because he is in a state of anxiety until the dead is buried. And other things like this also. That's a mission in Avos basically, and you got to see what the Rambam says there, or what the Mefarshim say there. I can't remember what the Rambam says. You shouldn't see. Shouldn't it be yireh? Oh, yireh. He shouldn't like be seen by his friend at the time of his degradation, meaning at the time of his friend's degradation. Ella yalim einav mimeno. Rather, you should hide his eyes from him. So let's say like someone is like, in a bad or embarrassing state, you should not let him see that you are aware of it.
You try to hide that you are aware of this. Like
right.
Yeah. How does that fit into this?
Yeah, right, because that's not Devarav. You shouldn't say, "Hey, Bob," when he's in a bad state. I see you. You know, yeah, it doesn't seem to fit into the into Dibor, right?
Yeah.
It is part of the Mishnah, though. I think.
Is it?
I thought is it?
I don't know this Mishnah.
Oh yeah.
No.
So it must be in the
I don't
perek.
know all of those.
But so far you have. Chavero.
I know the first card and like half of the second and half of the third.
Okay. Yeah. So the Mishnah says, "Al Torah et chavercha b'shat kaso." Oh, this is. I won't say bad stuff. Go to a different website. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer. This is in 418. Al pirata es chaverach b'shas kaso. Don't appease your friend at the time of his anger. Al tinachamenu b'shas shemeis hamudar lefanav. Val tishalo b'shas nidro. Val tishtado liroso b'shas kelkalato. Don't strive to see him at the time of his degradation. Yeah. If you just read the Mishnah, you wouldn't have any problem with it, because these things do seem to be in common. It's just the problem is the Rambam put it in this halacha. Yeah. Okay. Good time to stop for. Oh no, you know what? Let's read this one because we've read this before, right? This last one, just so we can start next time. He should not deviate in his words, right? Below meaning lie, right? Or add or subtract. Except in words of peace. Oh, we didn't see this one.
Yeah,
We saw this in. Okay, so we can do this tomorrow then.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, we saw this in Gazelle and Veda, so I didn't even know it was here.
I want to compare it.
Yeah, we'll leave more time for that. Okay, stop here for today.